All right, guys, we'll just have a quick run through American West for paper two. You've got three questions here. First one is your consequence. Now, this is going to be new for you guys because they're changing how the consequence is done. That means you'll have one consequence of one question and then another consequence of a separate question. So basically two separate consequences rather than two consequences for the same question. They're just marked the same. 4 marks for one consequence, 4 marks for the other consequence. Second question is your narrative. Remember, just structure it, start, middle, and end throughout. And question 3, you get a choice of 3 questions, and you need to pick 2, and they're marked 8 marks each. So they're P paragraphs, so 2 P paragraphs for each importance question. Right. So the consequence, the one we're going to look at here is explain 2 consequences of new technology for farmers in the American West. Now, again, as I said before, remember your question is changing. So instead of writing 2 consequence questions for one question, or 2 consequences for one question, it's now 2 separate consequences for 2 different questions. Okay, so you might get explain 1 consequence of new technology for farmers in the American West, and then your second question might be explain 1 consequence of new cow towns on the cattle industry. Okay, so again, do have a look at the marking structure. You're just getting marked out of 4 for each consequence. So what we're looking at is the consequence itself, and then you need to give information to back up what that consequence is and why it is a consequence. So let's have a look. 1 consequence of new technology for farmers was access to water. You could even just say wind pumps. Previously, the average farmer would have deep wells that they would manually use to retrieve water from the ground. These wells would often go deep underground and require a lot of effort to use and maintain. Okay, a little bit of evidence. And so your consequence is going to be stated. You're highlighting what the problem was before, and then this is where you explain why new technology is a consequence to farmers. Remember, consequence can be positive. So with the introduction of the new wind pump, farmers were able to access this water with a lot more ease. The wind pumps were easy to maintain, required a lot less physical effort, making their life in the plains a lot easier. So clearly explained. You don't need a lot to get 4 out of 4 here. That does more than enough. Okay, the narrative, always tricky. So write a narrative account analysing the developments in the spread of railroad network in the years 62 to 75. Now I chose this one because it's not your traditional narrative in the fact that it doesn't flow like a clear story like the Mormons or the Indian Wars do. So I'll talk through how we can answer this one. Again, always look at the mark scheme and what's required. So this is an analytical account. It needs to be organized with a clear sequence of events leading to an outcome, and there needs to be links between, and that's the AO2, and the AO1, you remember, is just the key features, the key facts. So I know I've said in class that I don't tend to read the introductions much, but it does help you structure them yourself. So I'd use an intro it's like a mini plan for yourself. So from the years 1862 to 1875, there were many developments in the spread of the railroad network. These developments included the Pacific Railroad Act, the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, and the increase in settlement west. So that's going to be the structure we're going to use. Okay, so due to the Civil War that started in 1861, the northern states of the USA pushed through the Pacific Railroad Act in 1862 without opposition from the South. Okay, so straight away, an opening line that gives you key information of how the Pacific Railroad was introduced. Now, what is it? That's what we need. So the Pacific Railroad Act would select a route that connected existing eastern railroads in Omaha to California. Good knowledge, good information, which allowed greater movement west. Furthermore, the government gave the job of 2 companies, the Union Pacific and Central Pacific, again, good knowledge, who used immigrant workers for the completion of the track. The Pacific Railroad was the first step. Good. Okay, that does the job. To the development of the railroads across America and will lead to its completion in 1869. So you can see straight away there's going to be a link, and our second paragraph is clearly going to be on the Transcontinental Railroad. So, in 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was finally completed, and with it the connections between East and West. With the completion of the railroad, many towns began to pop up along the track. Joseph McCoy had established Abilene, and more cow towns would appear to take advantage of the railroad connections, while cattle barons were using the railroad to quickly transport cattle and beef to the east and west, okay, leading to further developments in railroad connections. Right, there's your AO2 there, the leading to, so you got your connection to further railroad connections. That's the development of the railroad. You could add in a few choice words like development of the railroads. Well, no, it is there. It is there. So development of the railroads in railroad connections. Okay, AO2 with good AO1 knowledge to kind of lead you into that. More routes would be beneficial to the connections of trade and would lead to the expansion of settlement in the east and the influx of more settlers. Okay, so it's clearly going to go to our culminating paragraph. Once the Transcontinental Railroad had been completed, the development of the railway expanded further as more settlers moved east. Okay, the railroad made moving from east to west far easier than it ever had. In addition, the establishment of cow towns along the railroad led to the need of more routes reaching settlements that branched off for the railroad route. Okay, so again, key information that's backing up the development and why the railroad is being developed in the way it is. The expansion of settlement led to constant need of more routes being consistently built. This was largely down to railroad companies that had a Bureau of Immigration to persuade immigrants to settle in the plains. One agent even claimed to persuade 10,000 Scandinavians to Nebraska, good knowledge. And by 1875, I think it's really 1880, but you can say 1875, the railroad companies had settled many acres in the west, which ultimately led to an increase in more railroads that would reach the new settlers on the plains. Okay, a bit waffly, but again, it does all you need. It's got the packed with information. So the AO1 strong, and there's clear links to the development of the railroads. It's consistent throughout 3 paragraphs, so that would definitely be high level 3. 8 out of 8 many would give it. Some might be mean for the lack of consistency, which might drop it to a 7 out of an 8, but it's still a strong level 3 answer. And it uses the wording of the question. Okay, your importance questions. So remember, you've got a choice of 3 importance questions. You must answer 2. 2 paragraphs for each importance question. So you'll be writing 4 paragraphs overall. P paragraph structure. Right, so let's have a look at this question. Importance of Battle Little Bighorn for the US government policy changing towards Plains Indians. Remember, read the mark scheme. Your AO2 is really looking at why Battle Little Bighorn was important to the changing attitude of Plains Indians or towards Plains Indians, and your AO1 is the information that backs that up. So P structure, so you've got one way the Battle Little Bighorn was important to US government policy towards Plains Indians was their attitude. Clear point there. Previously, many US citizens were favorable to the negotiating tactic of making treaties through diplomacy in order to move Plains Indians off land. Many viewed the Indians as ignorant children who needed to be guided by the civilizing Americans. Okay, good. It's like giving good information that's going to lead to why this battle has an impact. And that's the importance here. Your focus should always be on the battle itself. Why is that the trigger point? Why is that changing the US government policy? So, however, the result of Little Bighorn sent shockwaves through the American public and had a dramatic impact on public opinion. Okay, good. It's showing straight away the importance and impact. The whites now saw the Plains Indians as a threat. Good. No longer ignorant children, but now dangerous savages. So you see how that is kind of showing the change from what was in the green paragraph. Opinion changed to assimilate and become American or be destroyed. So assimilate or die. The US government now rank up the stringent policies of assimilation and crush any potential resistance. Okay, good. Clearly showing a change in opinion there. Okay, final paragraph. So another way the Battle Little Bighorn was important to government policy towards Plains Indians was an increase in military presence. Okay, another one of them clear factors that after following the Battle of Little Bighorn. In response to the defeat of Custer, Plains Indians on the reservations were placed under military control, with their horses and weapons taken from them. In addition, the Sioux had to give up, I think that's meant to say, give up sacred sites such as the Black Hills in order to receive supplies on the reservations. Okay, so clear evidence there, clear information. Now it needs to link to why that happened. So the battle was important to this change in policy, as they were now seen as a danger to the US Army. The US government wanted to make sure that Plains Indians could no longer have the capability to fight back or pose a threat to the US. The increased military presence, forced reliance on supplies, and stripping of weaponry and horses completely nullified any potential Plains Indians had for war. The US, as a result of Little Bighorn, ensured the future safety of the US people by stripping the Plains Indians of any way to cause damage to the US Army. Okay, good. Does what you need to do. Shows exactly the clear impact the battle has on changing government policy. So there you have it. Follow those structures, guys. Remember what you need for each question, and you'll be absolutely fine. Remember, after everything, revision is key.